I got to figure that out.
Yeah.
Like, what do I want to be doing? Like, what's my offer? You know, what do I have to offer anyone? You know, like, do I go into just how to buy a house? Do I go into flipping houses? Do I go into property development? And as I worry with that, it's sort of, I guess, a bit niche. Do I even think about mentoring people? Like, you could do that, you know, like getting someone back into the healthy lifestyle, getting into business, you know, like a trifecta sort of thing. Like, I don't know. I'm just sort of trying to figure that out, you know, if you got any ideas for me. Like,
I was literally just thinking as you were talking through, this actually might tie in to the topic of today quite well. In terms of just overall like goal setting and setting goals. And so I wasn't there at Goggins, but what was the theme of how they were kind of portraying, I guess, the building of the brand or of the day?
It was kind of more like, I think they were going on. Should we start the podcast?
Yeah, let's start.
Yeah, welcome to the BMI podcast, guys.
Welcome.
I probably will be starting maybe a minute or two ago.
Yeah.
But give us a like, a follow, and a share.
Definitely.
So what was the question again?
What was the theme of Goggins? Because you just mentioned going to David Goggins. And like what was the underlying theme of how they were going about, I guess, what was their sales strategy?
Yeah, well, it was quite pushy, but I'll take from what I got from the event, like, and how I felt they were trying to, or how they were motivating me. It was like they were saying it's better. What is it? Like, there was a saying that they said, starting is better than perfect, or something like that. And they kept on going on about, like, just do it. Like, don't worry about the things that aren't perfect. Don't worry about waiting for the right time or waiting for your content to be polished, because going through that process polishes your content. Like, and that's where I think for me, it was trying to figure out, like, and then I need to understand what's my offer, or what am I going to eventually, you know, like bring forth to my customers that I want to help. You know, like, ultimately you got to solve a problem. Is the main one for business. Like, find a problem, solve it for someone, and then you'll have an exchange. You know, so that's something I need to figure out.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I want to be able to just give all my information for property development, flipping properties, property investment. Like, I think there's probably a good amount of audience here, especially in New Zealand. Like,
sure.
there's that, but I also see there's a lot of that, and then I kind of need to find my point of difference as well. You know.
Well, the reason I kind of brought that up, it's mainly because in talking about goals and thinking about goals, I think we have talked about the golden circle at some point in the past. I can't remember what episode it was, but it was from Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, which Start With Why is essentially, you know, whenever you're going into setting goals and trying to motivate or create a business or anything, having the central focal point of that. Most people start with the what, and I heard you kind of mention the what in there. You know, what's the offer?
Yeah.
And most people start with the what, but he's saying, like, Steve Jobs, Martin Luther King, and a lot of the big brands, what they'll do is they'll actually instead start with why, so the center of the bullseye, and the bullseye being going out almost in reverse. So you go why, how, and then what, rather than most people how they go what and then how.
I definitely know what my why is. Like, I want to help people when it comes to property. I love property. Like, I feel like that's just being over the last 6 months, getting back into it. It's really made me realize, like, man, I really enjoy this shit, and I can do this every day. And working my ass off, like, too much. Like, I was definitely getting towards burnout, but because of how much I enjoy working with property,
fueled the fire.
Yeah, and like, so I'm kind of going, like, how do I I guess build my way out from there. But I get what you're saying. A lot of people would start with the what, because they're just
and then it's something tangible, right? But so then you can take that a little bit further, and so if you go with your why, and it's obviously to help people through with property and things like that, well, then you can start to think about, well, what are the, what is the either the person or the thing or the value that you are trying, or the values that you're trying to emulate. And I know you've talked about it before, but it's like putting 100% into everything. So it's not trying to cut corners. It's not trying to sell shit cheap. It's not trying to undersell the customer to create a profit, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So those are the underpinning values. And so it's like, what are you trying to embody and portray through that why? And so then once you've got that, then you can start to go through, because I think your own personal situation up until where you are now has been pretty niche, right? So like you said, in terms of sales, in terms of getting into property through becoming a real estate agent, then going into, developing a property with someone else, then doing that by yourself. And not many people have that exact journey.
Yeah.
And so that whole journey is of itself not necessarily the thing that you can sell, but that is your personal identity. And I mean,
I agree with you, because like I go like, well, how many Aarons are there out there?
Yeah, one.
Like, yeah, well, how many are going through similar situations? Like, and that's something that I am trying to wrap my head around. Like, maybe I'm too niche. But then I also believe like I wasn't anything special. I didn't have any help. There are probably people I can actually have a big impact on and actually could help them into this world, because I literally didn't have any help or any support from my parents, other than the fact that they let me live in the house rent free for a year, so that I could save for my first house when I was 19. Yeah.
But that's it. So like, you could even just step back from the specifics of kind of like what you ended up doing, the whole journey or the process. There's really a journey of information that whole way through, right? And so you're learning about the property market through being in real estate. Now, I might want to learn about the property market, but I don't really want to go into real estate. But if I could understand what the real estate agent is thinking, doing, and what games that they're playing, well, then I'm in a better position myself as a buyer in terms of going in there and being able to be more knowledgeable about the terminology that they're throwing around, the types of different offers that are going in, or they might be trying to push me into one area because that's what they want, but that may or may not necessarily be in my best interest.
Yeah.
But the only way I'm going to know that is if I've actually got that information in the first place. And so you can take, like you said, like that knowledge that you've got as a real estate agent into the person who is just starting to buy a property. But at the same time, like, I see some of the houses and things that are on the market, and this might also just be outside of the first home buyer, going more towards the people that actually have established property already, and they're looking for that kind of next step. But how do you take a piece of land and how do you put a damn house on that thing? And especially if they've already got some assets sitting behind them, like, what does that process even look like, other than, again, you kind of just miraculously happen to jump into the field because, I don't know, your parents got into developing properties and things like that. Whereas a lot of people, I think in New Zealand, like, I was talking to my brother and he was saying IT and housing are really the only industries
big cash
that actually
cows in New Zealand.
in New Zealand, yeah. And so it's like, I think property in particular, like there's massive amounts of, I don't know, people interested in that.
Yeah.
But not a lot of people really, like, it's a whole process of learning that, almost just by kind of going through that process, failing multiple times to then get to the other end of it and being like, fuck, well, I wish I would have done something different.
Because a lot of them do get to the end and they go, man, that was a lot harder than it needed to be.
Yeah.
And I feel like there is probably a few professionals out there that are making it not easy or not as obtainable for people, and it becomes too hard. We even talk about it recently, like Judith just bought her first place and we settle on it next week. And she was just saying to me how, like, if I wasn't involved, she would have thrown in the towel. She because the amount of times we got told no, that's something that a lot of people aren't ready for. So then when they just get told no, they're so used to being told no in other areas and then just giving up instead of actually going and trying a different option, trying a different bank, trying a different approach with the mortgage broker. There's there's a whole plethora of things that you can try, and that's where I think a lot of people end up missing up. I'm going to be listening back on this and actually using it as my, I guess, workshop, so I can actually figure out what I can bring to someone else, keep it going.
Yeah. I mean, a couple of things that kind of popped to mind already was like whether or not that's the online side of things where it's kind of passive income, which may even go into more like coaching. But that kind of, I don't know whether or not it's called like business mentoring, like business coaching or business mentoring would be the thing, but it would be for the property side of things. House coaching.
And then and then that's where I worry I'm going to fall into that life coach category, but I got to just not, who cares though? If I actually can be, like, I need to think, like, if I can actually be of use to someone and they're willing to pay and to utilize my information, like, I need to get over that. Like, who cares if you're put into this box over here? It doesn't matter as long as you're actually delivering for your clients, and they're getting the value out of me,
Well, I mean, that's what you pay a mortgage broker for, right? Like, you pay the mortgage broker to get advice on obtaining a mortgage and obviously to obtain the mortgage.
Yeah.
But if you've got someone who's kind of overseeing all of that with an understanding of each of that, so like, I don't know, it's almost like the sports science kind of area of bit of property. So like in sports science, like when I did my degree, we didn't specify in one certain area, but we were kind of a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
And so that, like had an understanding of rehab, had an understanding of nutrition, had an understanding of physiology, had an understanding of strength and conditioning and things like that. And that's because they kind of all mix and mingle in together. Whereas you've kind of, again, it's not that you are 100% the mortgage guy. You're not the real estate guy. You're not the development guy or the builder. But you have an understanding of each one of those areas enough to kind of push people in the right direction for those. And so they can at least, know what they should go and look for when they go into that, if they're going to speak to a mortgage broker, if they're going to speak to a builder, if they're going for consent, how long should I actually take before, or how long should I plan in my, in the whole structure of things in order to get this thing across the line.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I always, which is where we're trying to go as a business currently for myself anyway, but it's, okay, how do we automate the process of kind of like what we do in a way so that it's passive? And that might be, hey, like you said, here's all the information. Some of it for free, some of it for paid. And here's all the information as a kind of DIY. So this is the blueprint, let's just say. And here's the blueprint of start to finish what you need to know to, I don't know, quote, ebook, buy your first home. Quote, second ebook, develop your first property. Learn the housing market. And I mean, you could use learn the housing market as a little bit of a carrot dangling in front of people to then go into buying your first home, which is a paid product. But it's all standalone. On a website, it's by itself. And you're using, this type of content, videos, as the dangling of the carrot.
Yeah, because I'm trying to compile my information, and I want to give some sort of free offer out there for people, just to, like you're sort of saying, like more of a wide scope of property, and, do with it as you will. Like, I think it's information that's already out there as well.
Yeah, 100%.
And but I could put my spin on it, or not even a spin on it, like, but just actually go through my experience, and then versus, because I find like a lot of the stuff that's already out there is kind of not dated, or it's in the ideal world. It's not necessarily how it always plays out. And like, for example, like what we went through, how many times did we get told no, that we can't borrow or something like that, and it's figuring out those little things, because that's where they kind of go, well, first of all, you go to a mortgage broker, you give them your details, you do this, you do that, and then you wait for a pre-approval, and then, oh no, sorry, you can't get a pre-approval, or your pre-approval's down here, you thought you were way up here, or you even, instead you would just go 3 months earlier, like something like that information. Go in 3 months earlier, do a pre-application meeting with a mortgage broker, get a plan sorted for yourself, and then you can actually set yourself up for when you go to the bank. Instead of trying to go to the bank, you end up shooting yourself in the foot, because then they know you've got bad like, what do you call it, account behavior, you know? So like, you know, there's things that you need to be doing to tidying yourself up so that you can present yourself as best as possible, you know, stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, like, it's all that type of information, which I think in its own individual is a good dangling of a carrot. And then when compiled all together into something that is obviously tangible and take away, then that becomes the online kind of passive income product that's kind of like sits by the side. And then what you do from there is you take that and then you create your own personal element from it. And that is, well, hey, like, you know, there's the coaching call, right? Like, you can have this and we can kind of work together through it, but we'll work together one-on-one through that, and we'll go through all the problems and barriers that you're facing in real time.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the value in that, and of course, higher price point because it takes your personal time in that sense, but that ends up being, you know, we work together over a period of, I don't know, 4 months, 6 months, however long you think it takes to kind of put yourself in that position to own your first home or whatever it is, and literally coach you through that process using this as the blueprint. And so you go through that blueprint, but you might, like you said, you might come up with a barrier of, hey, you got to know from this person. It's like, okay, that's all good. Let's put our ducks in line. Let's set this new goal and we'll go over here and do this one instead. Or we already expected that one. We just wanted to see where we're at, kind of thing. And we get to work through, again, in real time, one-on-one with a group of people to, let's establish this goal for them, which ends up being buying their first property or developing a home, which would be kind of another one. Yeah,
because I do think it, like the way I try to, I'm thinking about it in my head is like the information I can give to anyone. I think all the information's always out there. So there's going to be a few little special golden nuggets in there that I'll probably put behind, like I would say, you know, because there are ways that you can sort of play the system a bit, you know, like it's not that you're not doing anything illegal or anything like that. Oh, geez, you never start with that, either. But like,
some people like that shit.
No, but you know, like there's ways to actually get around there's some certain rules that are in place that are actually just should not be in place.
Yeah.
And that's what banks just have to have in there as like checklists and stuff. So, you know, it will be something like moving your Sky subscription to someone else.
Yep.
Like, you know, something like that could actually affect your serviceability, even though you know that as soon as you go in, you'd obviously run your numbers and you wouldn't go and try and bite off more than you can chew, but like there's certain things that you know that they put that as a high alert thing to look into, and then that, which is just Sky. They were like, oh, do you need Sky? And it was quite a weird one. We're like, okay, we'll cancel Sky, and then they're like, okay, cool, and then we're like, and then we can just literally start it up as soon as we moved into the house. Like it was very weird, you know. Like,
yeah.
But sorry, what were we talking about before? Like, but yeah. Anyway, it was just like there's all the information out there. I think, and I think it's going to be leaning more towards the coaching has to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Like even getting Judah through to the finish line, it's a whole lot of coaching. Like people don't, I would say people actually probably do realize, and that's why they probably throw in the towel a bit too early, because they got no one on their side. They got no one kind of giving them that insider information, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, I guess within what does that look like, and or how does that process actually kind of go through? And the reason I kind of say about the blueprint as well is mainly because it kind of gives you structure during those coaching calls, and so you know roughly, you know, the process that each person is in at any given point in time, but so too do they, and they know where the kind of finish line is going. But it also just sits there for the people that are interested, that don't want to pay premium, and so you'll find a lot of people kind of like sit and idle, especially while they're, you know, stumbling upon your content online. If they follow you, but they're kind of that kind of stalker fucking behind the fence. Yeah.
just always
just watching.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of that will they'll still buy into you. Like you have the golden 1,000 clients, or the 1,000 client rule, or that kind of thing, or 1,000 follower rule, or 1,000 true fans is what it is.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Where, you know, like that first 1,000 is really or that true 1,000 fans is really what will kind of drive your content, and that is they just buy into everything that you put out, and the goal is to get that. So they're on, you know, they're a coaching client, they buy the products and things that you put out there. They jump
Well,
over,
they're
buy some
like-minded.
coffee.
They align with you
100%.
quite a lot, right? Like that's generally the way that it works, right?
Yep, exactly. They're like you, and they buy into what it is that you're doing. But then you also just have the people that kind of sit on the fence, and even behind the fence.
Yeah,
like I said, they're kind of just peeping through.
Yeah.
But those people will still buy your product.
Yeah.
And especially because it's not as confronting as obviously getting a call. And the value is, of course, in the call or in the coaching. But it's like I said, it's your ideas are then just out there. And so people, they'll buy double. Like if they're buying the book or the e-product or the course or, you know, the millions of different things you can do with essentially the same curriculum these days, they end up jumping on a coaching call at some point. But again, they're the ones that are kind of hesitant to buy, and they'll buy the low price point. You know, they would have got the free hook. They're like, oh, that's a good piece of information. Yeah, I want to learn a little bit more. They kind of just dabble their way. It's almost like me getting into the DMC.
Yeah.
It kind of takes me about an hour to actually get into the ring.
I remember that.
They'll purchase in the same way. Knee deep, ankle deep first.
Ankle deep.
You know, they kind of got to go through that whole process. Where they just consume the free content. They might sit there for fucking 6 months just consuming free content, and then they'll get the cheap content, and they'll buy the digital product. And some people might stay there, and they might just purchase the digital products, and they're like, I have my own self-motivation, I'll go and do my own thing.
Because that's what I would actually rather. Like, to be honest, I'm off hustling, doing my own businesses as well. Like, I don't think it's for me to make like heaps of money off of people. More like you're saying, if it's the one-on-one coaching, probably for my time because I do have limited time because of how much I'm taking on at the moment. But like I would rather them actually use my free information and like use that actual information and do it themselves. Like I'd rather them do that with the little tips and tricks that in my thought that I'm going to put out in the free offer, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and another one that you can kind of go to, or which is a good question that I kind of stumbled upon with goal setting side of things, is like, what lights a fire in your belly? Like what really gets you going? And you can throw down like a few things on a piece of paper and you just think randomly. But what actually really excites you when you put it down there? And you get this little sensation too, like you'll write something down and you're like, oh, fuck, I really want to do that. And a lot of the times it's, you know, you don't really know until you put it out. And then you'll write something down, like I'll write down lose 10 kilos or something, and I'm like, I don't need to lose 10 kilos. That doesn't light a fire in my belly. I'll put on 20 kilos. I'm like, yeah, but I kind of don't want to take the gear that'll help me get the 20 kilos. And I don't really want to get fat either, so that's also not going to light my belly. But there might be something in between that is like, fuck yeah, like I'm down for that. I know, like we were talking
about
a
marathon or something like that. How
right?
That lit you up, you know? Like,
definitely. In the moment, that 100% lit me up, and it was just like, yeah, okay, that's slightly scary. But it almost needs to be that little bit of scare kind of antic in there where you're just like, fuck, okay, I don't actually know if I can achieve this, but fuck it. Yeah,
like I think that sort of plays into this year's mantra, right? Like, that's why I've been experimenting and trying new things this year. It's like embracing that difficult, because most of us are kind of, I guess we could relate this back to goals. You know, we kind of set goals for ourselves, but then they're always a little bit, you know, they're obtainable. So then they kind of feel like, oh, well, I can obtain that, so I'm not going to actually give it my all. Whereas like I feel like most of us, I would say 99% of us, know the work that we need to be doing that we're not doing.
100%.
And we're all kind of veering away from it, and we're trying to avoid it. And even though we kind of deep down know how much it would do for us if we actually, you know, pulled up our pants and actually just went after it, you know, like, and did the work, you know. So, and like with goals, I think we probably need to talk about like goal setting, you know, like how this is what the podcast is about. Not about me and my personal brand, but but
like,
it's
a goal.
No, it's a goal of mine, you know, is I want to help as many people as I can. Like, I don't think I'm going to be helping, you know, millions. I think I'm going to be helping a select few, but like that makes a difference for me because I got help when I was going through that stage anyway. But with the goals, I like to set them, I like to just dream, like big.
Mm.
And that seems to be my thing. But I don't forget about them. So I think that's where a lot of these entrepreneurs, or what do they call them? Positive speakers, when you go see them and stuff, they kind of motivational speakers. There you go. How they say, write down your goals and look at them every day. For me, I have like a recorded clip that I recorded of myself saying my goals. I want to retire my mum. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then, but changing the words as well. I'm like, I am going to do this. I am doing this, or I am this, or. And
they're called I am statements.
Yeah, I am statements. Yeah, and that's where I think a lot of people need to. I guess whether you believe it, like believe the bullshit, you got to kind of dive into that. And even if you think it's stupid, it really works. It genuinely does. Why would thousands of people across time always talk about it? And especially with the writing your goals down and having them visible, or like you need to be able to see them every day or something like that. Like for me, mine's that recording. And then also, I'm just constantly thinking about those. Because then the way I think of it, me and Judith talk about it when we're going for walks, is how can I, like, that is so far-fetched for me to want that. Like, if you look at my position that I'm in now, and then how am I going to get there, you kind of need to go, well, I need to think of there and then work myself backwards and from this stage here. And you kind of need to think of your steps, and that's how I use it. I use it as like, fuck, man, that's a huge ask, but I think anything's possible. I think as long as you're willing to put in the work, and so you just start thinking, okay, what do I need? How do I need to get to there? So I need to be doing this before the end of this. Like whether it would be getting another property, or whether it would be getting your first property before this certain time, and set yourself some tough deadlines. Don't be super upset if you ever go over it, but try to be getting as near as you can to it. Like with, I was really gutted with my running, getting that injury. Like I was getting close to it. I think I was going to fall shy, but just the journey itself was really good, and I will, once my knees back up and healthy, I'll be going back into it, so.
Yeah. Well, and so this is why I think it's important to start with the why, and that's not necessarily like, why am I obviously doing this, but from the perspective of like developing that identity over time. And that identity is that it's looking and reinforcing what those goals actually are. Like if you set a health-based goal, but you don't look at those health-based goals, or nothing you do confirms to yourself that you're a healthy person, how are you ever going to achieve that? Much like in the entrepreneur space, right? Like if you're starting a business, but yet obviously at the start, like it almost seems like you're failing more than what you're succeeding. Like you're not there yet. You've still got so far to go. And when you're looking only at
it's
the
all
destination,
part of the journey, right?
Yeah. But part of that why is, it's who I am. And so in the email I sent out over the weekend, I used the example of a vegan. Like if you're following a vegan diet because you care about the cruelty to animals, you're more likely to stick to it than someone who just set the goal because they wanted to lose 10 kilos.
Yeah. Because someone else told me that was a good diet for me.
Yeah.
Versus them having their own drive or their own reasoning.
Correct. Their own set of beliefs that is driving them to do that thing. And just like, starting a business, let's say for you, is a core part of who you are, or helping people kind of go into their first home is a core part of who you are, because you're the entrepreneur, you're the property guy. That's the you thing, and so when it's developed around that, whether it is, helping your mum or helping other people get into that, a core part of it is actually, it's just who you are as your own person. And that's why I think people need to start developing that. Like actually have a true conversation, not just try to come up with random things that they think their whys are. It's like, because I want to be healthy. And it's like, that ain't going to fucking get you anywhere. Like you don't even know what healthy looks like. We all want to
be healthy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what's the reason you're not being healthy right now? Like there's so many barriers that are in the way that, if we're not truly thinking about like, actually, who am I, or who do I want to be? Like you're the successful person that's going to be helping people, family, and a group of people. Like that's really that core foundation. And so then every other choice is, well, I need to be better for myself. I need to be better for others, and I need to be pushing those boundaries. And that's going to be more motivating for you to push those boundaries because that's a core part of your identity. And so then what and how can basically come after that. And so once you've got that why, which most people skip on, then it's that scared kind of, holy shit, I don't know if I can do this dream big kind of goal and aspiration. Cool. And like you said, now break that down, because we need to prove that we can get there. We're definitely not there now.
Yeah.
Otherwise it wouldn't scare us.
Yeah.
We'd be bored and we'd go around a big fuck off circle because we'd be so bored just because of course we can achieve it. You know, if I wanted to drop a kilo, there's nothing, I could do it tomorrow. And so it's like,
just not drink water for the rest of the day.
Right. Like I'm not motivated to do that. And if it was push came to shove, I'd be able to do it overnight. And I'd procrastinate all the time up until I'd really have to do it. Like if I had to, I don't know, weigh a kilo at the end of the week, I would do absolutely nothing for the rest of the week until Friday night. Yeah. Because I know that I can do it in 2 hours. Yeah. And
you're going to trigger some people, eh? Well, I've been trying to lose a kg for 10 years, all right? Fuck. But it actually is as simple as that. Like, and people, it's because you know that it's that easy, and that's why everyone's journey is different, right? Correct. So like that's for me, my high heights are never going to be there's other people out there that mine's not even near the heights of theirs. Do you know what I mean? Like it's our own journey. Yes. But like it's figuring out how do I get to there? What's that first step? Or and they don't need to be big steps. They need to be compounding efforts towards your goal. Yep.
Exactly. And it's those small wins, those small compounding efforts, that's actually what reaffirms the why in the first place. It reaffirms your identity. You are that person that's going in that direction. Every time, and this is the problem with setting only big goals and not working back from them, you set the huge goal, and if you don't work back, well, the only thing you'll ever do is fail at it. You're constantly, every single day, coming short because you're not there. And so if you're just confirming that you're failing every day, well, then you're never going to think that you're that person. And so those small steps, those little milestones along the way, is what compounds over time to actually teach you that you are that person. You are progressing to where it is that you want to be going. But they need to then be small enough so that you can action them on a daily basis. And that kind of comes back to the whole 75 hard thing, right? Like when you've got your critical, critical tasks?
Critical tasks.
Yeah. When you've got your critical tasks for the day, like, yes, okay, at a certain point, they're generic to the program. But then after which, they're individual for you. And so then you have to really start to think about, okay, what actually are my goals? What is it that I want to achieve?
Yeah. Do I want to carry on some of these critical tasks? Like what resonated with me? I think for you was the reading. Like that has fully set you off, and now you're a bookworm. Yeah,
I love it, and that and writing. Yep. Journaling and reading, and it was like I never had the catalyst to read consistently enough to actually find that as the interest. Like I always wanted to read books, but then I never saw myself as a reader. Yeah. I was always the exercise guy. I would go and play sport. Sport guys don't read. Yeah. And so I would never sit down and read a book because I didn't see myself as that person. Yeah.
Or you only ever did it for a stint where it wasn't long enough to see the benefits of it or gain the insights and see the benefits of actually reading, and instead of those small little windows and you're like, it just ended up turning into a drag. You didn't even finish it. You didn't get the golden nuggets out of those books that you wanted to get, or you didn't resonate with certain things, so you didn't get that value out of it, and you didn't see it until you kind of were thrown, here you go, you got to go do that and go tick those boxes, and then you ended up falling in love, with reading.
And a lot of that's an active process. Like you have to. What I struggle with a lot of, I don't struggle with it necessarily, but I tell other people because I can see that's where they struggle, in particular with health, but this fits any goal. It's you have to reaffirm why it is that you are doing the thing that you're doing. What do you actually like about the thing? And so if it's reading, it's like, oh shit, like I actually like having half an hour, whatever it is, that I'm not fucking on my phone. Yeah. Like I enjoy having to just focus on the pages rather than worrying about, I can catch myself reading down a page and then forget what I read like 5 pages earlier. I'm like, fuck. You can just see that whole mind wandering thing kick into play.
I got that quite a lot, especially if I ever left the reading to the end of the day. Yeah. I'm really bad for that, because then I'll be thinking, and one word will be something related to my day, and then I'm thinking about that while I'm 3/4 of the page later, and I'm like just zoning back in, and I was fuck, I didn't even. Yep. And like with the 75 hard, sometimes it becomes box ticking, because you've got so much going on. Exactly. But like I have been trying to do it a bit earlier, And because I would find myself just scrolling or something like that, and then I was just like, oh, well, I could actually just be smashing out my reading instead of me trying to leave it till 8:30 at night, and I'm knackered, and then I end up getting interrupted, you know, and then I failed because I left it late. You know, I failed because of me. So I left it late, and then Judith said dinner was ready, so I put it down, but I never went back to it. And I was like, fuck, like that next day. And that's where I think, you know, that keeping on top of your stuff and making sure you're getting things done at the right time, you know, it needs to be quite important, you know, so.
But just know, like, if you are starting a new venture, you know, whether that's health, whether that's business, whether that's reading a book, whatever it is, like, it's more likely that you're going to not like the thing that you're doing in the start compared to whenever it is that it becomes the thing that is just a part of who you are. You're not that person. That's why it's a goal to be that person. Exactly. I wasn't a reader, and so I didn't actually enjoy reading to start with. But what you need to do is reaffirm why you're enjoying it. You know, much like eating healthy. Most people, they tell themselves how shitty the food tastes. They tell themselves how dry the chicken is, or how much they don't like broccoli, and how much they want to be having cheat meals or fucking
they've got it the wrong way.
Or,
they should be searching for how they're feeling and
exactly
and how much better they're feeling and
exactly
how much energy they have and just all those things like sleeping better. Like
reaffirm the positives of the venture that you're going after, so that it entices you to continue to want to keep doing it. If I tell myself that, oh shit, this is so much nicer that I can kind of read a book and not be on my phone, I can be more focused, I can reduce stress, well, now it's more rewarding me actually opening up that book. If I tell myself, oh fuck, I have to slug through these 10 pages, I'm always going to be slugging through those 10 pages. And I think that's a key part of that whole process is, yes, definitely have the big aspirations, and that might be, I don't know, read 50 books a year or something. Right. If your goal's reading. Cool.
You don't need to hit it in the first year. A lot of people don't realize, oh man, I missed a book this week. And they're like, now I'm going to just throw in the towel. It's like you can have goals, and then you can just kick them to the next year, and then you go, well, now next year I have to hit them. Like, you know, and then you got to just be hard on yourself sometimes as well. Like you got to make sure that you are following through, and because every time it's like you're losing respect for yourself when you don't follow through on the things that you tell yourself you're going to do. Do you know what I mean? Like in your own head, you go, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get up. I'm not going to snooze my alarm, and then you go and snooze it 3 times. You're already disrespecting your own word. Like, and that's what I think a lot of people don't realize, that they're not abiding their own self. So like you can't expect people to, you know, trust you or believe in you or follow you or anything like that if you can't even listen to yourself. Like you can't even be in control of your own self and your own mind. There was a huge thing that they talked about at the David Goggins, and it was reiterated across all like 5 speakers, is it's change your language. My language is huge. You're saying, oh man, I got to slug through these 10 pages. You change your language and you just be like, man, I get to, it sounds stupid, but I get to slug through these 10 pages, or I get to sit down and read and have time to myself. Or I get to go and train. You know, there was a clip about a guy in a wheelchair trying to do a marathon or something like that. And, you know, there was a old famous NFL player over in America, and he says, you know, like the sad thing is there's people out here, like, because he used to be really popular, and they go, oh, are you sad that you've lost your ability to walk or something like that? And he said, no, like the sad thing is that there's millions of people out there that have the ability to do things, and then they just don't do them. You know, like you got to change your language. You get to do these things. We're very lucky. Like most people, you know, 99% of the world, of New Zealanders at least, we're very, very blessed. Like we have a great life, and the world is our oyster, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I remember putting something up on Instagram literally to that same like quote almost, is I get to, not I have to. And it was just walking to work. Like I actually get to walk 4 kilometers, and I have the ability to walk to work for an hour.
Because you know there's going to be one day
where I can't.
You can't.
Yeah. 100%.
And you will, like, those are the things I think people don't think about for their later on in their lives, like the regrets that will creep up on them ultimately. And that's what I'm trying to do right now. Is I'm trying to think like, all right, like I don't want to be the guy that goes around, oh, I wish I did this, wish I didn't, or I tried, wish I tried this, wish I tried that. You know, like a lot of people, they kind of cut themselves off early, and they're just out of the fear of failure. You know, it's I didn't want to give that a go, or you know, like it's those sort of things. We get to do these things. You know, why not have a crack? We're young. Like there's still a lot of people don't realize how much life that you have left if you get your health in check and keep driving towards goals. You know.
Yeah, I mean, and just that even just start, like what you said right at the start. If you don't know what it is that you want to do, and you're kind of caught in this, almost stuck in the mud state where you don't really know what way is forward. I don't know what my goals are. I don't know what it is that I want to achieve, or I want to achieve a few things, but they're kind of going in opposite directions. Just start.
Yeah, starting's
start
better
on
than
anything.
Perfect. Yeah,
and you'll quickly find out. Like I said, like at some point, it's almost like writing your goal down. There'll be this surge of energy that you'll get going towards something. You just pay attention to that, and if you start multiple little things, there will be some that you'll be like, I don't got the energy for that.
Yeah,
and if you don't got the energy for it, it's not lighting your fire. There'll be others. They'll be like, fuck, it's keeping me up at midnight. It's getting me out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning. Like I really want to go and do this thing. But half the time you just got to actually start something.
Yeah.
In order to realize whether or not you're actually in the position to go down that avenue.
Yeah.
And if you are kind of feeling a bit stuck or perplexed with where you're at, like just do something.
Yeah.
Rather than doing nothing. Because fuck yeah, it might get another year down the line and you're like, oh shit, I'm still in the exact same position.
Well, inactivity always leads to more inactivity. Like it's like it's weird that we're kind of, our own mind is against us a lot, whether that's social programming or whatever it is. The body wants to be comfortable, it wants to, is forever adjusting, and it can handle the pressure, it can handle punishment, but our mind is just constantly like, relax, take a seat, you've earned this. And what you need to try and do is you need to try and overcome those sort of, I guess, weak moments, and when you're finally maybe started and you're going, oh well, now that I've started, you kind of think, oh yeah, sweet, I've done a little bit, now I deserve to relax or something. That's where I feel like a lot of people miss that gaining of momentum. We've talked about momentum before, and when you just start, like that is literally just the starting line. You need to be collecting those small W's and then gaining that momentum. And once you have that momentum, like a lot of people, they kind of get that fear of losing that momentum, which helps you ultimately to get to your goals. Yeah,
I know you mentioned self-respect a little bit earlier, but a kind of way that I think about it is learning to reparent yourself. And so that's in a typical
that's a good one.
Typical household, you've kind of got the mother and the father. You've got the mother who's a little bit more compassionate, and you've got the father who's a little bit more orderly and
what do you call it? Military.
It's got the order.
Yeah,
you've got the discipline.
Yeah.
Discipline was the word I was looking for. And in that, but we need to kind of take that on and reparent ourselves. And quite often we kind of get caught in one of two, and we almost only discipline ourselves, and we're kind of really harsh, really critical of ourselves, or we're too compassionate and we give ourselves free outs. And you're okay. You deserve to go and have this.
Yeah, you've
worked really
hard.
Or
you've worked really
you're
hard.
really hard today. You could have a rest day today. Take a day off. Or the opposite. And you've done fuck all. You're nothing. You're shit. You've still got somewhere further to go.
Yeah. And
I can resonate in both of those camps for myself, but I'm definitely more of a disciplinarian.
Yeah,
on myself.
Here. Yeah, me too. Like I still haven't had a rest day in like months now. But it's kind of, I don't know. I always look at those things and I go, well, I think that's a blessing because I have the ability to keep working and keep working.
100%.
Whereas I think some people struggle to be able to just do the bare minimum, So like I kind of can't be too mad at myself for being harder on myself,
Yeah, as long as it doesn't become like pathological.
Yeah.
Where you start to just like almost just...
I'll have a rest one day.
Yeah. But you're not you don't put yourself into a depression because of it. You know, you don't self-criticize all the way to a point where you're no longer even doing anything, or literally running yourself further and further and further into a ground that's just completely counterproductive.
Yeah, no, I never go that far. I always I do give myself a bit of grace after I realize, fuck, you've been way too hard on yourself. That's when I go, okay, whoa, calm down, mate. Like,
and that's it. It's learning to reparent ourselves, and so it's like
that's
actually
a good concept here.
The discipline is really just a bit of self-respect. And so when you're sitting there in front of a chocolate bar, when you're sitting there in front of the business call that you have to make, when you're sitting there in front of the 10 pages that you want to read, or whatever the goal is, right? Like, in that moment, do you actually just need a little bit of self-respect? And if you were being respectful of yourself, what would you do? And that's an open question. That's not me pushing it into, okay, you have to read the 10 pages, or you should take the rest. It's, you're an adult, and you actually get to make that choice. But if you're being true and respectful to yourself, what would you do? And we know the answer. Like when we're in the
more often
moment,
than not, you got to do the work. You know, if there's work to be done, the person that has respect for themselves knows the future self will thank you for getting that done. And I think that's where that concept comes in, right? Like if you have respect for yourself, what would you do? You know,
Exactly. And again, at the other times, then you may need to learn, like you just said, to be more compassionate. And so that is, hey, you've realized that you've been going for a month without taking any breaks or anything like that, or you've worked, I don't know, 14 out of 14 days in the last fortnight, and you haven't seen your spouse or your family. And so at that point, maybe you need to be a little bit more compassionate. Hey, what are you actually driving for? Are you fueling your own self-sabotaging beliefs? And actually, do you kind of need to take a step back and you know, you don't need to work the 15th out of the 15th day. You know, and so learning to reparent, there's a good bit of mother energy there too, and a good bit of father energy there. But it's, hey, which one is actually needed for that?
Because most
situation?
people say, oh, I'm working hard for my wife and for my kids. I was like, well, your wife and kids would
They're
much rather you, they'd much rather you not put yourself into the dirt early, versus, you know, them having a few bucks extra when you are eventually in the dirt.
Exactly. And it is, and it's the balance between the two. But, you know, if you were being respectful, what would you do? And again, like, that will be one of the two answers. But typically, you know, because if you're more on the orderly side, or more on the disciplinarian side, it'll probably be too much order, not enough of the compassion. And the opposite, if you kind of always give yourself free rides, probably too much compassion, not enough order. And so just leaning into the opposite can kind of help to steady the ship a little bit.
No, that was good, eh?
Yeah.
What sort of, I don't know if you want to, I'm not a big person on telling the world my goals. I like to have ones that I tell people, and I think I've said quite a few of our goals already on the podcast. That I tend to have a few that I keep, you know, close to my chest, because I also think, you know, I don't know whether it's whether I'm worried about other people's opinion. It could be that, like, I don't want someone else. It's such a big goal for myself. I don't want other people chopping me down. You're never gonna do that, because I already know it's such a big goal. I'm already kind of in my own head going like, fuck, it's a big goal. You want to do that, like, you know, that's sort of where I think those sort of goals are kind of good to, you know, keep to yourself and then use that as your own fuel. Because I sometimes a lot of people have close ones and loved ones. They want to see you. What is it? They want to see you do well, but they don't want to see you do better than them.
100%.
Like, in that, especially in New Zealand, we've got that tall poppy syndrome in New Zealand. It's quite bad. I've experienced it a lot in my life. I kind of like it because it actually has made me just not ever. I've never bragged about my accomplishments, but most people know what I've been up to. So, you know, it's them that actually come up and, like, they tend to ask me, oh yeah, how's that going? And then like, that's where it becomes less people trying to tear me down, because they're the ones that are interested, or they kind of want to know how things are going, versus a lot of people, they kind of, like, if they see you being flashy and then, or bragging or talking about your stuff, that's when I think New Zealanders get a bit snarky and try and bring you down and stuff.
Well, I think you know, it can go bad on both sides, but it could also be good in both ways too, by telling people. And that's like, if you bring people and then quite often they can help to hold you accountable.
Mm.
And I think you have to be very selective with who you tell, and obviously people that are either in line with that or anyone who's actually just impacted by that.
Mm.
So whenever you're setting a goal, so like if it's going to impact your partner, let's say, right,
Mm.
and you're setting a personal goal, and it's got actually nothing really to do with them, but
Yeah.
it will have something to do with them by nature of just ripple effect.
By proxy, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to impact them because you're focusing on your one thing and not them. And so letting them in on that goal helps for them to at least have an understanding of what you're doing.
Yeah.
In particular, anyone who's close around you, and even coming back to like the whole coaching thing, whether or not that's a mentor. And if you've got someone there that's kind of like helping to guide that process, because that helps to take a little bit of the thinking out of it from your own hand, that can often be useful. But yeah, I'm not really a fan of telling everyone my goal.
Yeah.
And that's mainly because like it's almost the masturbation effect where
Yeah.
you're kind of doing the work, but you're actually not really doing the work. You feel
Well,
as
a
though
lot of
you've done it.
Yeah, that's where I think a lot of the entrepreneurs that I follow, they talk about is you get that gratification straight away. So you kind of already got what you were doing it for. Like, well, not that you are doing it for gratification, but a lot of us, we like it. We like a pat on the back. We like to know we're doing good, or it's a confirmation that we're doing well, or something like that. But that's where they say you get that instant gratification from them. They're like, "Oh, well done," and that's why with me, like for us, like I kind of like to be the guy. I caught up with a mate the other week. I like to be the guy that tells when I tell someone something, I'm going to be doing it. And versus there's some things like with business, like sometimes I don't think, I want to do these things, but sometimes they don't end up happening.
Yeah.
So that's why those are the things I try to keep to myself, because I don't want to be the guy that's going around, oh, I'm going to do this. And like, well, my one was like, we were buying a house, I want to be buying a house. And then I saw him and I was like, oh, and he said, oh, congratulations on Judith's house. And I said, I liked it. He's like, I remember you telling us about that. And I said, well, yeah, I tried to tell people the things I know I'm going to do, whereas you kind of don't want to be going, oh, I'm going to be doing these big things and then they see you 6 to 8 months later and they're like, oh, how's that new business going? And you're like, well, yeah, I didn't even start it or something, and that's embarrassing, and that's where I think a lot of people that can actually, cap them and they don't start because of those moments that they went and told people that they were going to be doing this. Yeah, I guess it's like having that self-respect, right, and following through on the things that you say you want to do.
Yeah, and definitely, like, accountability is useful. Like, it's one of the most powerful levers that you can pull, because being accountable to someone helps to drive you in a certain direction. But if you're using other people in order to kind of like give yourself that gratification of, oh, I'm doing the thing, and you're not even doing the thing, like, inherently I find it just becomes another barrier that's just in the way.
Yeah. And you're doing it for the wrong reasons then too as well.
Yeah,
so
100%.
then ultimately you never were going to do that thing anyway, because it was you got what you wanted out of it. You already got the praise. I see a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
And it's a shame a lot of people do that for, like, I guess their health too. They do it, they get the gratification, and then they're like, oh, sweet, and then they get the bag the girl, and then back to shit, like.
And that's literally the industry at large, and that's kind of where I always pipe on about finding things that you enjoy, and obviously it's not just finding the hedonic enjoyment out of it. Like I said earlier, there has to be an active process of enjoyment, and that is some of the shit you're not going to enjoy at the start. And so you have to actively find the things that are positive, even though you might dislike them right now. And that is like what you're saying about eating healthy. How do you feel after eating that versus how shit do you feel after eating Macca's or whatever? But it's changing that narrative. And that's an active process. You actually have to do it because it's not going to come natural.
Running was a huge one for me.
Yeah.
Like, really, really hard for me to start. But I could always remember at the end of it, I always felt better about myself.
Yep.
So I would think about that. Because, like, when you're going through it, God, it's like, you just want it to be over and done with. But you kind of need to be true to yourself. I was like, well, you told yourself you're going to run for 30 minutes and not stop.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter about the speed. That's what I was doing. So I had to keep thinking. I was like, oh, well, I know I'm going to feel good after this. So just keep pushing through. Like, there's so many times that you want to stop. You just need to find those things that you're saying before that actually are what you are enjoying about it. They might be minute, but there's still small little things you can pull from it and go, okay, well, I did enjoy this part about it, even though 99% of it was miserable, you know. Like
And it does, that enjoyment over time, I think, reaffirms the why. You know, like that actually brings back to like the whole person that you are trying to become, and that is, well, I'm telling myself, or I'm showing myself that I'm a runner. Why do I do that? Because I'm standing up every day, or I'm turning up every day, or whenever it is that I'm meant to be turning up and doing the thing that I don't really want to do, but I'm doing it. And, oh, this is actually quite fun. Oh, there are parts of it that I'm seeing improvement. Now I can run for 30 minutes without needing to stop. Now I can run for 35 minutes without needing to stop. I couldn't run 1K before, now I can run 5K. All those little small wins. Yeah, it's not the marathon.
Yeah.
And the marathon is in sight
Yeah.
further down the line. But for now, it's, oh shit, I can run 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was a huge compounding effort for my running. Like for me, I stuck to that. I think for like 4 weeks, right, just running for 30 minutes, and then I put it up to 45, and then I just started. Once I gained that base, that solid base, and I wasn't running fast at all at the start either. You know, like my goal was never to actually run fast. My goal was just to be consistent with running, and then it ended up turning into like, man, the times started getting better and better, and then the body, you know, I finally shaved all the weight that I've been holding on to for those 3 years, you know, like and got down to 10% body fat, you know, so like that was the thing that ended up becoming an amazing result. That wasn't even a part of the goal, you know, and that's what I think a lot of people are missing is you actually gain quite a lot more by going out and achieving your goal, and it always leads to that next goal, and it leads to that next goal, and that's where I think people need to just get after it and kind of just don't really think and just go forward, just start, you know,
just start. 100%.
Should we leave it at that?
I think it's a good place.
I think that was good.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Cheers, guys.